Yeah, I think we constantly think we've seen all we can from Donald Trump in terms of the outrageous or unprecedented, but he continues to surprise us. The events of January 6th and the build up to the Biden inauguration is unprecedented in every way that we've seen. And what's most interesting about that is you have Republicans and Trump himself committing to a peaceful and orderly transfer of power, and seeming to not notice that that ship has already sailed. The peaceful transfer of power doesn't just mean that on January 20th, when a new president is sworn in, that's now the peaceful transfer of power. It's the admission um, and sort of concession
Yeah.
by the outgoing leader that someone else has been elected by the people and will lead the government, and there will be a peaceful transfer of power, not this constant pushing of fraudulent claims or lies about fraud in the election. Telling your supporters to fight for the country, otherwise you're not going to have a country left, and take it back from these people. And this is how he incited the riot that happened at the Capitol. And we just sort of continue to see these almost sort of crazy scenes unfold. So, obviously security heightened around the January 20th inauguration for
Mm.
President-elect Biden. And, we'll have to look and see how things play out.
Yeah. And as we do that, speak to us about the optics of what's actually happening here. There's a situation where an outgoing president will not be attending the inauguration of their successor, something which hasn't happened since, I think, the 1800s, if my memory serves me well. I mean, what does that do even to the political climate of the United States?
Yeah, it's disappointing to see someone do this, but to be quite honest, it was a year before the election even happened that many of us were predicting that with certainty that Donald Trump would not attend the inauguration of anyone else but himself. And so it comes as no surprise that Donald Trump cannot attend the sort of let's just call it in Trump's terms the winning ceremony for a race that he lost. There's just no way. It's sort of contrary to his nature, and he's shown over the last 4 years that his time in office wasn't really for the Americans; it was for himself. And so this idea of kind of putting country or party before himself and coming to the inauguration is a little bit too much to ask of him. And it goes further into this notion of saying that we didn't have a free and fair election. And as the Democrats have moved to impeach Donald Trump for a second time, you've had a number of Republicans say, now's the time to unite as a country, put all of this behind us and move forward together, while seeming to forget that the guy that they're pledging their loyalty to won't even attend the inauguration of the next president. And they continue to pledge this peaceful transfer of power while Donald Trump won't go to the inauguration of Biden. So I'm not sure where their calls for unity are in that space,
Mm.
but certainly it's not helpful for the country to have the outgoing president insist that this election was stolen from him, and then not attending the inauguration of the new president.
Yeah, and of course, this has raised questions around Donald Trump's own political future as well as his associates. Interestingly, the survey I mentioned a few moments ago reflects a decline in support even within the Republican Party. In fact, many will argue the cracks have been showing for quite some time now. How critical do you think it is in the Republican Party at the moment, given what is likely to be a very charged exchange among some members behind closed doors?
Yeah, I think we've seen cracks before, and certainly this time is different. But I'm not ready yet to say that Donald Trump is going to lose his grip on the Republican Party. You had after the January 6th riots, when Congress reconvened in the Senate chamber, you had Lindsey Graham get up and saying, enough is enough, count me out. And a few days later, he was on Air Force One with President Trump coming to Texas. So there's this kind of I say what suits the moment kind of thing, and it's hard to know that this is actually a genuine break. We've also seen that only 8% of Republicans, in terms of the general population, are for impeaching President Trump, leaving 92% somewhere in the middle or against impeachment. And so that's still an astonishingly high number. And I think that we will likely see, former President Trump from Wednesday next week, continue to maintain a fairly powerful grip over the party. Whether he can influence elections or not is kind of a question up in the air, but I think most folks are going to be wanting his endorsement. And in that case, they're going to have to kind of continue to kowtow to him.
What is also up in the air is whether the inauguration on Wednesday will continue unhinged. We're now seeing reports that all 50 states are bracing for some kind of protest action, yet another unprecedented situation to be dealing with. What do you think that does to Biden's presidency, starting with so many difficulties before he even becomes president, really?
Yeah, I mean, Biden was going to be coming into a difficult situation just with the COVID pandemic. He didn't need a borderline civil war to add to that. We have, as you said, had threats in all 50 states, largely sort of pointed at the capitals of each state. And so there's heightened security, but we end up in a situation where law enforcement is stretched fairly thin between trying to protect state capitals and then also trying to deploy extra security resources to Washington, D.C. ahead of the inauguration. I think what's particularly interesting here is that, Donald Trump has painted himself as the law and order candidate, as the president who sort of champions the cause of police. And yet he has put so many of them at risk from the Capitol riot, where police were attacked and, one of them killed, another one smashed between a doorway. They were hitting them with all kinds of sticks and baseball bats and whatever else they could find. One case where a protester was even beating the police with an American flag stick. I mean, it's kind of this bizarre scenario that we're in. And so, it is unprecedented for us to be looking at this across the country and wondering if there's a sort of ticking time bomb going on. But we're going ahead with President-elect Biden's inauguration on the 20th. It's still going to be outside. It is already going to sort of be a pared down version of the inauguration, given the COVID pandemic. But Joe Biden has a huge task ahead of him. He's going to be coming into office on day one with an impeached former president that still needs to have a Senate trial. He's going to have an economy that's been hit by COVID and unemployment numbers that have continued to be sort of a bit of a mountain for us to climb. He's going to have to enact his legislation. He's going to have to work to combat the COVID crisis, and he's also got plans to sort of change the vaccine rollout system in the US. So he's coming in with a full plate, and I think it's going to be almost the most packed first 100 days that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, the same 100 days where he's hoping to inoculate, I think it's 100 million people against the COVID-19 virus. He's certainly spoiled for choice when it comes to the many challenges facing the country. Thanks very much for your perspective. Truly appreciate it. Brad Price